Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Talk Time with Terry and our guest, Dan Miller. Hello, Dan, how are you?
Hello, Terry. It's good to see you.
You as well. And again, and I want to thank you for taking time out of your campaign to come on Talk Time with Terry and educate us on what's going on with you in the campaign.
Well, I appreciate it. I know I was running a little tight coming on with you tonight, but I was on dad duty as well. So, some things are more exciting than others, but I'm very glad to be here with you now.
Awesome, awesome. Well, if you don't have any questions, we're going to get started. I do want to let the ladies and gentlemen know that if you have any questions for Dan, please put them in the chat. I will make sure that he gets them. If we don't have time for him to answer them, he will make sure that he answers your questions. So please put them in the chat. Our tech person is not here today, so give us some patience, and we will get started right now.
Let's do it.
So, for the people who don't know you, please share a little bit about who you are and why are you running now? Why now?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yes, I am. I'm Dan Miller. I'm the state representative currently in the 42nd district. That is in the South Hills of Pittsburgh. I've been blessed to serve there for my community for the past 11 years, roughly. It's been a fantastic run, a great opportunity to talk about issues that I think can make a difference in people's lives, and it's been tremendous. Obviously, well, I was House Majority Whip last term, which was another great honor, and I appreciated that. One of the things that sometimes comes up though as a legislator is you end up sort of arguing sort of up these big issues, right? Which are
Mhm.
great. But I kind of felt like, you know what, I missed the work the benefit that I used to get from sort of practicing on the ground and making a difference in a case by case, family by family, person by person manner that I did through law. So, I always knew that my last race would be one for the bench. It was always in the back of my mind.
Mhm.
And then when the opportunity came up, and through conversations with House leadership that I had earlier last year, and just discussion with my family to kind of go over some things, we felt that, 11 years in the legislature was pretty good. And now is the time to make a leap, hopefully to
Yeah.
do some good work there, especially on the disability mental health front, which is always my priority.
Yeah. And thank you for bringing that up, the your priority, because that is, I do want to get into one of my questions of your passion for mental health and disability. Um, Let me ask you, tell us, what do you consider the most significant challenges facing the legal system today?
Oh, man.
And
Well, look, yeah.
how would you address them as a judge?
Listen, that's a lot, right? That's a lot. So we are hemorrhaging challenges all over the system. We are sort of red flagging, pre-November, and now there are
Mhm, mhm.
even deeper questions that have come up. And depending on where you are, clearly the federal courts are kind of occupying a lot of
Yeah.
bandwidth for people's attention, and rightfully so. Look, on the state side with it, most of my time was spent as a public defender and a county solicitor. Overwhelmingly, that meant that I worked for people who are economically disadvantaged, poor folks,
Mhm.
people with disabilities, mental health, usually some combination of all that. Okay, the challenge always was everybody can equally walk through the door. Okay, but whether or not their rights were administered as fairly or as equally, that's a different story. And there were too many times when, even when it would come down to a simple thing like a preliminary hearing, where I
Mhm.
would have clients go against my own advice to waive their rights in order to get a bond reduction
Mhm.
because they were just not able to pay a couple $100
Yeah.
to get out. I've seen too many times when a couple $100 meant that somebody had constitutional rights and somebody did not.
Yeah.
I think we are struggling. We're bringing up examples in criminal, but we are struggling across the board when it
Mhm.
comes to equal access to justice. That's something we were talking about recently in the House as well. We're glad, thankfully, for Governor Shapiro and Lieutenant Governor Davis
Mhm.
for helping
Mhm.
us get some indigent defense funding. But we need indigent funding across the board to be sure no matter what court you're in, no matter how much wallet you have,
Mm.
your access to the courts are fairly represented. So
Wow.
that's my number one. I'm concerned
Mhm.
about that.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. And you said a lot because we talked about the mental health, your passion for the mental health and disability bond. You know, and that is so true that $100 can change can change someone's circumstances, and it's I'm so glad you tapped on that because that's something that we do need to discuss, and this will be one of my questions. So, uh, um, let me ask you this because I was great to ask you about to describe a case, but can you describe a legal issue that you feel exemplifies your judicial philosophy?
There's always on the campaign trail, there's usually a couple stories that every candidate uses to try and illustrate a couple points. Um, Let me try to give you one real quick. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Like we talked about disability and mental health. A lot of the work I do work now with a firm called Rooter Law. We do special education and disability rights. Okay. We had a case a while back where we were trying to help a young man get an IEP fulfilled, meaning that uh, he had a clear diagnosed disability that was impacting how he can learn, and we were trying to get the school system to meet the child where he was, and for education to be well tailored to those needs. That was a struggle to itself. One of the challenges for the young man was severe anxiety. Okay, so again, all documented. We knew exactly what the problems were. The school district knew exactly what the problems were. Okay. Um, Long story short, in our negotiations with the school district, that, from my opinion, was going too slow. My client ended up having a test in school where his anxiety spiked.
Mm,
During that anxiety spike, he got up without really making any disturbance and went underneath the desk of the teacher and just stayed there. Okay. And he
mm,
stayed there, and the teacher asked him to come out. He goes, no, no, I need to stay. I need to stay. Okay. Teacher then alerts, central office that the young man's having a challenge. Okay. And the rest of class keeps going through as if
mhm,
nothing was going wrong. They knew them. They grew up with them. They knew the challenges. And then, sure enough, a little bit into it, the school sends over some personnel to assist.
mm,
The person they sent was a security professional. Security professional. I tried to get the young man to come out from underneath the desk, and he's like, "No, I can't yet. I just need some time. Give me some time." Well, the school personnel grabbed him by his ankle
mm.
and yanked the young man out from underneath that desk. Took him a couple times. The young man just holding on to the desk, saying, "Please, just give me a little more time. Just give me a little more time." While he was being yanked out, he kicked back and he struck the school personnel. And the gentleman ended up talking about some sort of contusion. But sure enough, long story short, my client ended up getting felony aggravated
Mm.
assault charges filed on him. Do you know how old my client was? 10. So my client was 10 years old. My
Oh,
client was 10 years old with the school district knowing farewell his IEP, knowing farewell the anxiety issues, with having a behavioral support plan that we were red flagging them to try and make better. And since it was a school personnel in line with their duty, they went for the bump up of the felony charge, and my
mm,
10-year-old was in front of court. Now, the judge, the district attorney, and the judge had decisions to make. Okay, I was trying to, let's just say, wrap that case up that day.
mhm,
The district attorney was not interested in that. I ended up getting creative to try and get the judge to suggest a different path. At the end of it, the judge was like, "Mr. Miller, I suggest your client do what the district attorney says. Otherwise, you may not like the aggravated assault charge."
mm,
So, my point being at the end of this is that this is not atypical, right? We need to have judges who understand the difference between disability, between a diagnosis and not, what it's like to be anxious and what it's like to have anxiety, what it's like to have depression versus what it's like to be depressed, and the understand that in mental health arena, you may never stop. You may never complete treatment. You may always be in treatment. But these types of nuances, which are commonplace for disability and mental health advocates, all too often in courts, they're misunderstood, misapplied, and district attorneys and some judges. no matter how good their intention is, are not as updated or as educated on these matters, and they end
Mm,
up instead making these situations worse. That is the example of the difference I think I can make on the
yeah,
bench.
yeah.
That's why I'm running.
Wow. So first and foremost, I want to make sure that that our audience, that our ladies and gentlemen, we heard what is what was you Grace say?
No, no, I'm listening.
Oh,
No,
okay.
you got me.
I want our audience to really take in what you just said. You know what you experienced, and what our babies and our families experience, because these are the men and women that are running to sit in these seats that will be making these decisions, and or um, more horrific and or less. But we have to pay close attention to the background of the men and women that's running for these extremely important seats, and we have to pay close attention on the vision going forward with these very important seats. So I want to thank you so much for sharing that with us, Dan. I really do, because when we think of we can talk about this all day. So I'm going to go to the next question because
Well, can
go
I
ahead.
give you one more?
Yes,
You know,
please.
look, just real quick with it. I was at an event today, which I appreciate, the event that was put on today in the city. But we do have a mental health court, by the way,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And the mental health court, like a lot of our problem-solving courts, are just not funded that
Hmm.
great.
Hmm.
So we're always limited by the value of them, because of the lack of funding and the lack of like a commitment to meet the mission. But I would note, as a public defender, former public defender, 90% of my clients all had the same combination. So when somebody comes up and they say, well, I'm interested in, strengthening mental health court, what they have to keep in mind is basically every court is
Mm.
mental health court. Okay. Every court. I
Wow.
would challenge anybody to go up to a sitting judge today who's in family, who's in criminal, and ask them if their docket today
Hmm.
included zero cases, no cases, where mental health was not a component of some aspect of that case.
Yeah.
My overwhelming belief is they will tell you no. Every day is mental health day. Every court is mental health court.
Wow. And that is so, so true. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you for sharing your passion for disabilities and mental health with us as well. Um, has your experience as a lawyer? A lot of what you said has literally answered a lot of my questions. Um, how has your experience as a lawyer influenced your approach to advocating for certain cases? But I think you went into that with your passion for mental health and disability. So I'm going to ask you a different one.
Okay.
All right. Have you ever had to recuse yourself from a case?
No.
No. Okay. All right. We're going to talk about ethics and fairness.
Okay. I'm with you.
What do you think the role of a judge should be in the community?
It's interesting. You know, uh, I think some people look at it differently. And keep in mind, I come out of this, or into this race with 11 years with the legislature. I get stopped frequently at Giant Eagle. When my wife sends me to Target, she knows that she's got to double my time, okay? Because I won't be back. All
Mhm.
right. So when we're at Giant Eagle or Target or something else, you're in the community, you're always talking. And overwhelmingly, it's positive, impactful conversation, maybe some good feedback. Most often, somebody needs help with something, and they're looking to grab your ear to try and get an idea of where to go. Okay. So I'm used to that. I'm used to that responsiveness, and I appreciate. I've benefited from being that accessible. Judges, of course, they take a different sort of role, right?
Mhm.
The position and the of it is meant to be a bit different. The challenge I may have with that is that I like to talk with people. So I like to be involved. So I do every year in my office, for example, we do a disability and mental health summit. It's the largest collection of disability and mental health resources in Western PA. This year it's coming up on May 8th. Just a plug. Check out disabilitysummit.com. But people come up to me and they say, well, what are you going to do with that event? It's so impactful. It's so beneficial. What are you going to do if you win? And I'm like, we're going to find a way to continue to be active in that field.
Wow.
So we're going to have to work with administration to figure out, how best to be part of the team. That is a goal. But I'm also not looking to plug in and plug out and be a status quo type of judge. Status quo never helped me really do much.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to find a way to be active, especially in the communities that I find to be most vulnerable. And largely that'll be disability and mental health related, but it won't be all of it. So we're going to find our way with it, Terry. But don't
Yeah.
don't give up. Check back with me in a little bit.
We plan to have you back on. We plan to have you back on. Um, okay, so let me ask you this. In your opinion, how can judges foster public trust and confidence in the legal system,
Yeah.
especially as you tapped in communities that's underprivileged? Because in Pittsburgh, you can literally see where the income changes from the zip codes.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, how can judges foster trust and confidence in the legal system, especially in communities of low income, Black, Brown?
I applaud you for that question. I think it's at the heart of so much right now that's going on. Not to get too sidetracked, but we see other branches of government spending some time, intentionally or otherwise, eroding faith in our institutions. Um, the judicial branch there's no, in essence, no police force, there's no military, there's no executive. It's not really an executive agency, of course, so there's no way to enforce the law from the judiciary side. So having faith in the system is very much at the heart of it. If you do not have faith in the judicial
Mm,
system, um, then it's sort of a cancer that grows within it,
yeah.
and it undermines the most valid decisions that can possibly be made. So I think you're right to ask about how best to do that. I think that there is a transparency and a communication style that perhaps need to be expanded
Hmm.
in relation to it, not in a way that risks some of the more private issues that occasionally need to be addressed, but in understanding that this branch of government needs to be strong.
Hmm.
And without it, we will descend into a chaotic mess. And so I'm very concerned about that. Let me tell you one quick example of
Please.
why and how. Um, so for the last, I think, 2 or 3 terms in the legislature, I've been concerned about how the courts are funded.
Hmm.
Okay.
Mm,
So right now, okay, the courts have to come up hat in hand to the legislature to get funding. Okay. And the legislature decides how and when to fund this branch of government. Um, in some ways, this is ridiculous. Okay. What has been happening in 2001, for example, the courts were dependent upon collecting fines and fees from those who they supervise to fund 1% of their operational cost. Okay. So 99% of the courts were funded through taxpayer dollars, 1% through the fines and fees they collected. Now, about 25 years roughly later, it's up to just about 20% of the court's cost operationally have to be collected from those they supervise. Okay. So think about it. One of the greatest ways to undermine faith in the system is for those who are administering justice to
mm,
then tell somebody, look, I need to keep you on probation because I need you to pay that fine because
mm,
I need to get a new computer system in this building,
mhm,
right? Or I need to be sure that our elevators work, or whatever else needs to be done routinely to upkeep a courtroom. So it is wrong. We put the court system into a horrible scenario. Um, they should, in my opinion, have 0% of their operational budget paid through by the fines and fees of those they collect,
Hmm.
because that's another way that people start to lose faith. And they're like, I heard he needed a new iPad, so I got a new fine, I got a new cost, and I got to stay on probation until I pay this thing. So that's my concern. I think it very much is a real issue for us. We need to strengthen our institutions, and that also means that we need everybody to come into those courtrooms and feel that they have um, they may not get the outcome that they're hoping for, but we need them to be assured that they have the appropriate representation and the opportunity to present their case and have a fair chance of justice, no matter what the outcome is.
First and foremost, I cannot tell you how much I thank you for that for your response, because for years we have been asking where are our fines and fees going, because
Mm.
I was thinking that they were supposed to come back to the community for like resources and things like that. All
Come
so
on, Terry. Come on.
let,
Come on.
let's listen. So
No.
we're
We're
like,
having real conversation here, right? It's me and you, right? Come
like
on. You thought that money was coming back? What, for kickballs?
that's what we were
All
like. Well, where's it going? Where's it?
right, I get you.
So now on Talk Time with Terry, I just found out it goes for laptops and tablets.
Well, and listen, and again, I'm not actually blaming the individual judges for this at
No,
all.
no, no.
Right. The legislature has punted this and has made it happen. Right. This is not really an option for the courts. Right. It has been dictated to them by the government, by the legislature. Yeah. So we have to figure out how
Wow.
to work on these types of things. Right. There's no doubt about it. But coming from the legislature, my I kind of know a little bit about Harrisburg, so I'm hoping that also can be helpful in how
Yeah.
the court administration has conversations with Harrisburg about how it's funding an operation.
And see, that's so important to all of us, our ladies and gentlemen that's listening, um, for um, for the candidates. All of the candidates, or some of the candidates that have some type of knowledge of Harrisburg,
Yeah.
have some
Yeah.
type of, this is the policies, this is the legislation, this is that can get through. And so thank you so much for that, because I got to tell everybody about the fines and fees, because
Hmm.
and I love
Hmm.
learning things every time I'm on Talk Time with Terry. Every time I learn something new. And so I really, really thank you for that, because so now we know what fight, because we were fighting the wrong fight. That's why nobody was helping us. They knew we was looking in the wrong direction.
Well, we need everybody looking in the right direction, right? And look, I'm the first person in my family to not only be a lawyer, but the first one to graduate from college, right? So, all of this stuff was foreign to our world.
Yeah.
My parents were immigrants here, right? So, it's all been a new eye-opening experience, and I've benefited from conversations with so many people that have helped me understand things and develop a perspective. And I love our country, right, and all of its imperfections, all
Yeah.
right. But my family were immigrants. This mattered for us to be here. But in order for it to work, in order for it to be the country that I believe it is, it has to work for everybody,
Yeah.
right? And so I can't have somebody being on probation because of something the legislature should be covering.
Hmm.
It's a difference between paying a fine and a cost versus paying a restitution that had been appropriately assessed. Those are
Yeah.
two different things.
Yeah. Wow, thank you. So I wish we had more time, because and I don't even, I'm going to ask you this, but I think I know your answer. But I want to ask for the men and women and families that's listening about, will you have the power for probation or parole, and what do you believe? How do you feel about lifetime probation and parole? And yeah, how do you feel about that?
Lifetime. Yeah. Look.
Yeah.
So look, it's um, you get to see. Look, you're ending here with a big question, right? So, look, we did probation reform of some type in the legislature not too long ago. I voted against that bill.
Okay.
Okay. I voted against that bill because I found it to be a convoluted mess that I did not believe was going to improve outcomes or the system that we had. We have too many people on probation, and parole for the wrong things, right? For the wrong things. And we're not designing goals that necessarily make sense. And there are some things that we need to do. Look, when you're on probation, for a fine or cause, for example, it is financially, if you look at the studies, it will limit your opportunities to be, for you to get a job, a promotion, improve
Mhm.
your standing in so many different ways. If you have to go up and be like, I'm on probation, right? We need to do things that encourage and provide pathways to success. Staying on probation for financial reasons, and again, restitution gets handled a bit differently, but staying on probation for financial reasons, most often, after a little bit of time, makes no sense,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So we need more people to get off of probation parole.
Mhm.
But look, I will tell you, Terry. One time I did town hall with Representative Gainey. It's
Uh,
back in the day, Representative Gainey, and he brought me in because we were talking criminal justice reform. And somebody got up and they talked about how the system was broken.
mm,
Okay, and so Ed turns to me and he's like, "Go ahead, Dan. This is for you." And so I got up in front of there and I said, "Look, the system is not broken."
mm,
And I
mm,
got booed. They booed me. And so Ed looks at me. He's like, "Well, you better have an answer here." And I said, "The system isn't broken.
mm, mm.
The system is doing exactly what it's designed to do."
Yeah.
Right. So, look, accountability is a real issue. Justice must exist. But there are root causes that our government needs to do a better job of addressing. There's disparities that are embarrassing for us to have. We have a juvenile justice report that has so much for us to talk about when it comes to results. And I'm not interested, really. I mean, look, we need the system to efficiently operate. That's true.
Mhm.
But I'm more interested in breaking the wheel in the sense that I don't like generations of people being stuck in
Mm,
it. If
mhm.
that's the case, something isn't going right, and America isn't going right.
Yeah.
And so we have to do better, and our courts are integral to that process.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow. All right. Two more questions.
Oh,
My
okay.
next
Go ahead.
two more. My next one. Why you?
Well, listen, look, I think that I bring a unique perspective for it, right? Somebody comes up because I spent I don't even know, thousands of court appearances in court 3 or 4 days a week, every week when I was before I was in the legislature. And they say, "Well, what have you been doing since?" Right? And I'm like, "You know what I've been doing since? I've been learning. I've been writing law. I've been debating law, um, and I'm a better lawyer, and I'm better situated to be judged now than I was before I was in the legislature." So sometimes you have the right combination of experience and then sort of knowledge and expertise that come together to be an effective change agent.
Mhm.
And what I mean about it is again, um, I want better results. I want accountability to work,
Mhm.
but I need accountability to be well designed to the issue at hand and the person individually, right? No one stop shop, right? It's got to be very tailored to the cause at hand.
Mhm.
We don't have limited resources. We need them to be shrewdly spent and shrewdly designed. And I know that every time somebody gets pulled out of home, even for a short couple days, it is incredibly disruptive and
Mhm.
traumatic to that family and all the responsibilities that are there.
Mhm.
If we are pulling people out, it better be for a good reason. Um, and sometimes, all too often, um, it's not. And
Yeah.
so, my perspective, I think, is a little broad based. I feel like a little stronger and ready for such a job and responsibility. And hopefully, with your audience's help, I could be one of the 8 that they elect on May 20th.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Um, now, if someone, now there's no questions in the chat, but if someone wanted to talk
What?
to you, or if someone had their own questions, or they wanted to volunteer, they wanted to donate, how can somebody get in touch with you?
Well, listen, votedanmiller.com. Okay, is there, and you'll see everything that you need to find a way to get involved. Some of which I can talk about, some of which I cannot, just with judicial ethics of how things work. But listen, your most important thing is talk to people. Whether hope you got to, hopefully you'll think of me for one of your 8, but hopefully you put together a great slate that will represent your interest values that you want to see on this bench. 8 spots don't come around a lot. Okay. It's
Mm-hmm.
a big opportunity. So, but look, you'll find a lot of ways to help the team in any way. So I don't want to tell you exactly how to do it. You go on, you pick the way that is best for you, but we need everybody's help to do it. So I do hope you check out votedanmiller.com.
All right, and there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Candidate for Court of Common Pleas, Dan Miller. Dan, I will let you have the last word. You have anything to say before we say good night?
Listen, I just want to thank you, Terry, for caring to reach out. I know sometimes some of these races, some people don't have the time maybe to really put into it, but you're helping people connect to it, understand the value and the interest, and get a little idea of the perspective people bring. There's nothing better. I've enjoyed this 31 minutes I think we did together. I
Yeah.
hope we get to do it again.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining Talk Time with Terry and candidate for Court of Common Pleas.